today could very well be one of the most important lessons that you receive in your business, period. How do you really create a business that is worth so much more than your competition? And how do you get your customers to see why they should be paying you more, while at the same time improving the quality of your service and creating more raving fans? What are the things that you could do, the services that you could provide that can make a customer feel stupid for not booking their move with your company? We need to start understanding first from a customer standpoint, what is it gonna take for them to say yes to your company, knowing that you are up even double the price of your competition? It's about value. I've been saying this since day one, right? We gotta sell value, not price. Sell your service, not price. So today, simultaneously, we're gonna raise your standards of service and sell that service at the same time. Today, we're gonna talk about raising your standards and selling your service. I know that sounds very vague, and I purposely made the title that way because I'm like, you know what? I want the people, I don't wanna sell this. I want the people to like, hey, yeah, we gotta raise our standards and we wanna sell service. To be here and to show up and to get this. But what we're really doing today is we're gonna reconstruct your business. Today, I wanna say this to you now that you're here, today could very well be one of the most important lessons that you receive in your business, period. So I'm saying that because if you're listening passively, grab your pen, grab your notepad, grab your note in your phone, whatever you got. I see it there, Frank. And let's focus in on this, because this all comes from the idea of a couple things. We need to charge more money, right? We know that. We all know that we need to raise our rates, but as long as I've been saying that since 2017, 2016, 2017, it's like, okay, well, how do we do that, right? Or you've done it, but you did it, and you're like, wow, we raised our rates and we're still booking, right? We raised our rates, we're still booking. Okay, well and you didn't change anything, right? You didn't change anything. Well, today we're gonna talk about how do you really create a business that is worth so much more than your competition, and how do you get your customers to see why they should be paying you more, while at the same time improving the quality of your service and creating more raving fans, right? So today we're basically talking about how do we take sales, marketing, and operations together with one initiative, one big initiative that we're gonna do today, right? And improve our service, improve our marketing, and improve the amount of jobs that we're booking at higher prices, all right? I'm fired up for this today. So, we've got to look at it and say, okay, let's reverse this, right? Let's say let's just pretend together today that we are all, nobody started their company yet, okay? Nobody started their company. We're all here saying, hey, what do we need to do to start our moving company from scratch, right? Let's first talk about, we got to decide, okay, well, what is the offer that we're offering to customers? Is it, we'll move your shit, right? Is that what it is? I mean, is that the offer? Like, hey, we could, because then if that's the case, you're just a commodity. Anybody can do it. Today we're looking for what's going to differentiate you from everybody else, okay? So we've got to look at, okay, what is the offer first? So a lot of times what people will do is they'll say, well, these are the things I do, how do I sell it? Today we're going to reverse that. We're going to say, okay, what are the things that you could do, the services that you could provide that can make a customer feel stupid for not booking their move with your company? And then we'll reverse into how to actually get that done and actually how to put that into your messaging, your marketing, your scripts, all that, emails, estimates, so that you translate that message over, right? Because I know so many of you offer great service, and whether you even recognize it or not, from a standpoint of like each individual thing that you do on the job is a service. Yes, your moving service is the overall arching, thing that you provide. But under that, you're padding furniture, right? Under that, you're laying floor runners down. Under that, you're helping people set up their items exactly where they want it to go. You're disassembling furniture for them, right? You're offering pricing solutions that ease their concerns. Maybe you've got flat rates, maybe you've got guaranteed, maybe you've got hourly, binding, non-binding, whatever it might be. We need to start understanding first from a customer standpoint, what is it going to take for them to say yes to your company, knowing that you are up even double the price of your competition. It's about value. I've been saying this since day one, right? We've got to sell value, not price. Sell your service, not price. So today, simultaneously, we're going to raise your standards of service and sell that service at the same time, right? This is a different level of like, let's just raise our prices. Good, you guys, everybody got comfortable. I hope everybody was able to do that and raise their prices and see, oh wow, that was easy. Now, let's reconfigure a little bit. Let's refresh. Let's optimize. Let's rebrand if we need to, in order to have more people saying yes. All right? And so I'm going to walk you through this process today of what we need to do that. And you're going to probably want to come back and watch the replay if you're here live with us. But take the notes and make this your mission for 2022. All right? Today's lesson is your mission for 2022. This will raise all boats. Okay? You guys ready for this? I hope I'm not overselling it. All right, so here's what you're going to do. First thing we need to do is we need to establish, let me just give you this point here. Service facts and benefits. Service facts and benefits. Okay, so what does that mean? What you're going to do is you're going to brainstorm every service that you provide, right? Every little thing that you do. You disassemble, you reassemble, right? You pad furniture, you give them a binding estimate, you give them a flat rate estimate. All the service facts, every fact about what you do, you're going to make a list of all that, right? You're going to make a list of all the facts that you provide. And then you're also going to add, what could you provide, right? And so when I say brainstorm, let me just give you guys a little hack on brainstorming. Brainstorming, when it's done effectively, is done in a different mindset and usually a different time and place than strategy. So what we want to do is we want to brainstorm with our inner circle, with our team that is there with us and making decisions, right? Maybe that's not everybody in the company, but maybe you've got one person, two people, maybe somebody in here that you want to connect with and do this with. But you want to start brainstorming, hey, what are all the things we do, right? If you're two partners, you could kind of sit and do all this. And during that brainstorming session, the key is never to knock an idea. I'm giving you guys a huge distinction on brainstorming right now. It might seem like a small thing, but never knock an idea. Because here's what happens sometimes when people get in a brainstorming session. Someone will throw out an idea, like, you know what, we could offer the customers, we could actually Uber them from their old house to their new house as part of the service, right? And just made that up, by the way. Like that's brainstorming. And the person sitting next to me could go, that really wouldn't work because, what about this and what about that? Immediately, they're crushing the creativity in the room, So before you have a brainstorming session, you want everyone to understand a little bit of the framework of how you're going to go about it, which is, every idea that's tossed out there, nobody puts it down. And matter of fact, people should add to it, right? Well, yeah, we actually, not only could we Uber them from the old house to the new house, we could do Uber Black so they feel like, special that we did the upgraded Uber, right? We could buy them lunch, right? Now, I'm not suggesting any of these ideas. I'm just trying to illustrate that brainstorming, when you allow yourself to think big and you don't immediately shoot down ideas, magic happens. Okay? Magic happens. Because when you're, you have to, and you're going to have to set this. Whoever you invite into the brainstorming session, you have to set this context for everybody. And if somebody immediately shoots down an idea, you have to call them out. All right, look, remember, we're not going to shoot down any ideas, no matter how dumb it is. No matter how dumb it is. I might say, listen, they could ride a dinosaur from point A to point B, right? It doesn't matter how dumb the idea is. Everyone needs to keep pushing that idea up and adding to it as opposed to tearing it down. Then after a brainstorming session, then you come back and look at it and say, how do we make this happen, right? How do we, how do we implement these ideas? And I can almost guarantee you, with a good brainstorming session and then come back to it maybe the next day or take a break and come back to it, because if you try to go from brainstorming to strategy right away, you're going to mix the two and you're not going to allow the power of the brainstorming to really take place, okay? So you want to brainstorm. What you're looking for is the facts. You want the facts of the services that you provide. So the services that benefit the customer and the services that could benefit the customer. But here's the thing. You also want to look for the flaws, okay? So there's, when we think about like the facts and the benefits to the customer, we can make that list, right? Oh, we do floor runners, we train our movers in the warehouse, we don't use any day labor, right? We charge by the hour, we charge a flat rate. We'll talk about that in a minute. Like, doesn't matter what it is. If that's the service you provide, then we've got to look for what the benefit is to that customer, right? Because we're talking about service facts and benefits. So whatever the fact is, what's the benefit in that? And so when we talk about flaws, well, the flaw, you might have a flaw that is, a customer might perceive a flaw being that you don't come out to their home and do an estimate, right? Or they might see that coming out to their home is the flaw, right? We think that all the stuff we do is good, but we've got to look at it from the customer standpoint and say, what's a flaw here? A flaw might be storage, for example. Like, we did storage where we would come pick up your belongings, bring them back to the warehouse, and then store them in vaults. Well, that could be looked at as a flaw, as opposed to us bringing the vault to you and loading it there, or as opposed to putting it in a self-storage unit where you'd have access. That could be looked at as a flaw. So for every flaw, what you want to do is you want to come up with an objection, a benefit that acts as a rebuttal for that, right? That flaw could be, well, we don't really want to store our furniture with you if you're going to come pick it up and bring it back there. You have to be able to spin that on why that flaw is actually a benefit for them, right? So, actually it works out, because what we do is we come out, we bring everything there, we bring everything back to our warehouse. This way we don't have it in vaults moving on the truck along the way. And by the way, you could go both sides with this. This isn't an opinion about how you should do storage. This is just selling the benefit of the facts about your service, right? And then when we bring it back to the warehouse, we're able to take our time, load it properly. We're in a climate-controlled facility, right? We're able to hold that for you safe and secure until you need it, and then we'll deliver it back out to you. So what we're looking for in part one here is we're looking for the service facts and the service benefits, right? The benefits of those facts. Because you can't sell facts to customers. You could sell the benefit. Like, what's in it for me? It basically sums up this whole point. What's in it for the customer? Doesn't matter that you train your movers in-house, that you don't use day labor, that you've got the best equipment, right? That you were awarded this and that. What does it mean? You have to spell out for them. What does it mean for them? What's the benefit for them, right? So once you've got a list of the service facts and the benefits, now you've got one component of it, right? So if you've heard me talk about sales to service consistency, or sales to, or marketing to sales to service consistency, it's, you want to be able to understand what it is you do from a service standpoint so that it could be in your marketing, so that it could also be in your sales pitch, presentation, script, whatever you want to call it, right? And so what we're doing now is we're saying, hey, what services do you provide, and what services could you provide that would provide tremendous benefit to the customer, right? It's a brainstorming session. You've got to go through it. You've got to identify those things. Once you identify those things, then you could start to figure out, how do we weave that into our messaging? How do we weave that into our marketing? How do we now train our team on this big vision we have, right? So instead of saying, what do we do? We're going, what could we do? What do we do, and what could we do that the customer would be like, that's amazing? And then we look at, how do we sell it and how do we service it? Okay? Is this making sense? You guys with me on this? All right? It's a big, I'm squeezing a lot in this today, so it's a big concept, all right? It'll all come together, I promise you. So, I was looking at some of your comments here. Awesome. Best year ever, 50 to 75% sales growth and double in profitability. Where's Justin at? Yeah. All right. So once you've got that, now, okay, remember, this isn't like, this is the real work that you've got to do. Okay? I know some of this, some of you are like, you're already starting to disconnect from me right now. But I need you to stick with me. This will transform your business. This will make it to where you don't have to work so hard at selling, and you're going to be able to get top dollar. Okay? That's what we're after here. So, okay, I'm clear. I know what the services are. I know what the facts of those services and the benefits that it provides to the customer. Even the things they may see as a flaw, I've got a benefit that I could explain to them to help overcome that. All right? Remember, if you're familiar with my script, it's like, tell them the type of estimate and the benefit. The type of estimate and the benefit. And I always say, like, doesn't matter. You charge hourly? Great. You charge flat rate? Great. Binding? Okay. Non-binding? Whatever. Whatever your thing is, okay, because there's no best way. I truly believe that it's based on you and how you see you want to service your customers, and the repercussions you want to deal with or not deal with, right? Because each one of them has some pros and cons to them. It's just a matter of your tolerance for each one of them. The point is, whatever your way is, you have to sell that way as the best way, right? And so what we're doing is we're making a list of all your ways of doing things, what their benefit is, so that later on in this conversation today, we get to, how do we present that to them in an irresistible way to where they feel like, I've got no choice but to go with this company, even though they're more money. Okay? So the next thing we want to do, we've got that. Now we want to get the customer's concerns and desires. This is where we start to understand the customer. What are their concerns? What are their desires? So whenever a customer calls your company, you have to understand that they've got some desires, some things that they want to achieve from that phone call. But they've also got some concerns, right? So when you're looking at, moving, what are their concerns? Is the price going to be accurate? Are they going to send good people to my house? Are they going to show up on time? Are they going to break my stuff? Right? I want you to think through what all their possible concerns could be. Even stuff that you may have in the past looked at and go, oh, that's petty. Right? Stuff that maybe you've read in a negative review or a customer has said to you that you're like, that's why are they stressing that little stuff? Because they are. And they're thinking about that when they call you. So we've got to understand, we've got to make a list of what are all their concerns that they could possibly have. Silly little stuff that they could possibly have. And what are their desires, right? And then what you want to do is you want to start brainstorming, how can you give them what they want, right? They have these desires. What do you do, or what can you start doing to give them what they want? And they have these concerns. What can you do to either eliminate that or limit those concerns or assure them that they won't happen? What you're doing is you're starting to build your objections. You're starting to build your rebuttals to their objections. These are the reasons why they wouldn't buy from you. So I want you to think about, as we're talking about this, I want you to, the picture I want you to have in your mind is I want you to have, you're on the phone or you're in their house giving an estimate. They're either in the house or they're on the other end of the phone. And the conversation that's happening when you're painting the picture, you're painting the picture of your services and the facts and the flaws and the benefits of what you do to help that. You're also painting the picture and addressing what you know they're already concerned with. You're addressing it. But then also showing how you can help overcome that or alleviate that. You're addressing what what you know their desires are and how you're going to help them achieve that, right? So by understanding where your customer is coming from, right, who they are, in marketing they call this creating an avatar, understanding who your ideal customer is, all right? And so if we start with the top line, it's somebody that's moving, right? And then, but some of you, maybe you're like somebody that's moving locally, somebody that's moving long distance, somebody that's high end, somebody that's in an apartment, right? Whatever it might be, we've got to understand what they're thinking about. What is their psychology, okay? So that we know what to say to them to get them to book. Now, what we're doing here is we're going to then reverse. We're starting with what do we need to do to get everybody to say yes? Let's agree upon a new standard, and then whatever. Okay, here's a list of things that we could get that everybody's gonna be like, yes, I want to move with them. Well, out of that list, maybe half of them you do and half of them you don't do. Well, you obviously need to be able to execute on the other things as well. But by starting with what will people say yes to, as opposed to like what could we do, right? You're building an irresistible offer for them. That's the thing. Otherwise, as a moving company, you're a commodity. They're going to price shop you. That's it. If you don't raise your hand and say, excuse me, let me tell you why we're different. Let me tell you what's unique about us compared to everybody else. They're basing it off of price. Simple as that. Right? So in order to reach high levels of profit, in order to reach high levels of customer satisfaction, we've got to raise the standard of our service, and then we've got to sell that service. And when I say sell that service, that doesn't mean, come on, book with us, book with us, book with us. It means, no, we're going to weave in all the messaging that we need to weave in all of our marketing copy, in our sales scripts, in our emails, in our estimates, to where we're giving them exactly what they need. And at the same time, it's forcing us to elevate our service. If you've raised your price and customers continue to say yes, okay, that's the first level, right? That's the easy, low-hanging fruit. Can we raise the price? People still book? Great. Now it's how do we take our service to a new level, provide additional value, and then how do we persuade them to move with us based upon this value? How do we get them to see and understand this value? And we do that by knowing what the benefits are, so we can sell them on that. We do that by understanding what their concerns are, what their desires are, so we're addressing those specifically. And we're not just giving bullet points of the, we'll empty the drawers, we'll shrink wrap the dresser, like whatever it is, right? You've got to make sure that you're doing it specifically. So now we've got two areas of this formula here, right? We've got the service facts, we've got the benefits, and then we've got the customer's concerns and their desires. That's a major starting point for being able to revise your messaging to your customers, because that's all it is. I mean, your sales is all messaging. Your marketing is all messaging. What are the words they are reading, or what are the words they are hearing? And we want those words to speak to them. We want those words to make them feel like you're going to help them achieve their desires, and you're going to help them alleviate their concerns by doing business with your company. And you could do this in a very seamless, poetic way. If you look at my sales script that you guys all have, that's how it's formulated, right? It's addressing all of that all the way through. So the next thing we need to do, once we have that, you guys with me on this? Everybody, you need me to back up? We're good? Okay. I'm telling you, this isn't as big of a mission as you think it is. This is a day or two max. You know, a couple afternoons with you and your inner circle of figuring this out and saying, hey, for 2022, how are we going to raise the bar? Not only how are we going to raise the bar, how are we going to raise the bar, raise our prices, and then sell that increased standard that we just set, right? We've got to come up with a unique selling proposition. A unique selling proposition. You know, this was touched on briefly in Moving Sales Academy, but we've got to understand, what is your unique selling proposition? What's the thing that differentiates you from everybody else, right? As a moving company, if you don't have something that differentiates you from everybody else, your unique selling proposition, again, you're a commodity. People will price shop you. They will go for the lowest price. So the gap, right? The gap for the companies that don't want to lower their price but want to succeed at a high level, that gap is all messaging. That gap is all, first of all, deciding what is your unique selling proposition and how do you package it in a way that provides extreme value for the customer. So let me give you some examples. You know, we had something called our furniture protection promise. And what that means is we promise that if we damage your furniture, we're going to take care of it, right? We had another, a no-nonsense estimate, which basically means, hey, there's no BS here. What you see in the estimate is what you get, right? And many other things along the way that we looked at and said, this is our unique selling proposition. Now, here's where people get caught up. People get caught up and say, well, it's really not that unique. Other moving companies do that too. Okay, but if they're not positioning it and packaging it and putting the words to it in a way that resonates with the customer, then it doesn't matter what they do if they get the business, right? We've got to move the services you provide, your true unique selling proposition, we got to move that to the front. So this week, I'm working with a private client this week who, you know, I sat down before I got on the call, because our previous call, they're like, okay, our main thing, I just started working with them. Our main thing is, you know, we need to get the sales machine going, right? And we need to get our employees to buy back into this customer service of taking care of the customer, right? So it's like, okay, well, how do we do both at the same time, right? Who wants to book more jobs, have your team bought into this idea of taking care of our customers and create more raving fans, and do it with one effort? That's what we're doing today, okay? So the idea was, okay, they happen to do flat rates, right? And so with flat rates, well, let's make that your unique selling proposition, all right? Because they were saying we're getting outpriced by other people who are given an hourly rate. I don't know, they're either going out there and they're doing a revision to the price, right? So that's how they're getting the job, their competition. They're like, we're not sure. How are they doing it? They're either, and I said, look, they're either, a few things. They either have no idea about their numbers and they're slowly putting themselves out of business by trying to play the price game. Or unfortunately, they're giving a low price and then showing up and saying, oh, well, actually, it's going to cost you more money. We need to revise the order, which unfortunately people do. Or they're just, literally, it's the person booking the job who's also going to be the person on the truck who's got no insurance, who's got no, anything, who's able to do it at that price. Okay, so I said, what we could do is we could play the price game and try to compete, or we make you stand apart, so far apart that the customer just, like, even though your price might be double theirs, they're going to feel stupid by going the other way, right? They're going to feel like you've got to show the polarity in it. You've got to show like this is the real service that they want, and this is something different. It's basically a way to badmouth your competition without badmouthing your competition, because you know that I feel that badmouthing the competition is this bad taste and you should never do it. You should never name somebody out and talk about how terrible they are. But you could differentiate what your unique selling proposition is versus other people, other companies. There's us and there's other companies, right? So with them, it's like, well, what could we do? Well, how about guaranteed pricing? Okay? In order to do that, so we're working on with them. We're working on figuring out, okay, what's that going to mean? Like if you're not going to do any revisions to the orders and you're going to guarantee every price, what does that look like now on the operational end? Right? So we'll get to the operations piece. I know this sounds like, well, Lewis, we're just going to make all these promises and sell people stuff, and then what? Not like, how are we going to fulfill it? You need to fulfill it. You need to make sure that the service is there to back up what you're selling, right? But what we're doing is we're looking for that elevated level of service to sell that and execute on that, right? And so when you have your unique selling proposition, like that's a strong one. For someone that gives flat rates, that's really strong. But it's not enough to just say we give a flat rate, right? We've got to do more to make the customer understand what? The benefit. What's the benefit to them? How does that help them overcome their concerns? How does it help them get their desired outcome and result from moving with your company? How does it have them justify paying more money to move with you? Right? So you've got to make a list of what are your unique selling propositions. What are the things that you do differently than other people? And I'm saying this again because I want you to write this down. It doesn't matter if other companies do it. If they're not highlighting it, if they're not shining light on it, doesn't matter at all, right? Like, don't think, well, yeah, everybody does that. Doesn't matter. Customer doesn't know that, right? They only know what you say you're going to do. And so with your unique selling proposition, first thing you want to do is you want to name it. Give it a name, right? Like our furniture protection promise, that's a name. Our no-nonsense estimate, that's a name. So you want to name it. Then you need to define it, right? So our furniture protection promise, what that means is, if in any chance that we damage any furniture, we promise you that we'll take care of it, we'll send somebody out there, we'll replace it for you, whatever it might be, right? Our no-nonsense estimate, what that means is, based off the inventory that we're getting from you today, there won't be any changes, there won't be any surprises on the day of the move, okay? So you've got to look to name it. And I'm not giving anybody a name because I want you guys to all, I know you could come up with stuff better than what I just gave you. So name it, you got to define it, and then you've got to simplify the process, okay? Simplify the process. Meaning, like on an opt-in page, on a landing page, let's say on pay-per-click. What I like to do, if you guys have it all in your members area, is I like to, kind of have 1, 2, 3. Like, here's how simple it is to work with us. 1, 2, 3. These are the 3 steps. Simple, easy, right? You've got to make working with your company appear like it's the simplest thing. And I was looking at another company's landing page this week, private client, and they got part of this concept of the 1, 2, 3, but the 1, 2, 3 was so wordy and so confusing and used terminology without a definition of what it means that it confused the customer. And a confused customer does not buy. A confused prospect does not buy, right? People will, I got another question this week was like, Lewis, should we, all our competition is using all these terms that, lift gate and tariff and, dollies and hand trucks and shrink wrap and all this stuff. We think the customer may be getting confused by this. We're thinking about not saying those words anymore. Those industry terms, we're thinking about not saying them anymore. And like totally understood where they were coming from. I'm like, no, I get it. Your head's in the right place, but here's what you want to do. Instead of not saying those words, you want to say those words, the industry terms now we're talking about, right? Not necessarily your unique selling proposition. This goes under your unique selling proposition, right? Because estimate, binding, non-binding, all of that, protection, furniture protection, like those are just terms in the industry that we take for granted because we know them. We need to make sure we define them for the customer. So you continue to use any words, tariff, right? Like customers are like, well, what's that, right? The way you charge for time, people in California, double drive time and all, like the customer doesn't know what these things are. And so when you confuse somebody, they don't buy. They don't sign up. And most people, unfortunately, don't raise their hand and say, I'm sorry, what is that? I'm not familiar with that. What is that? Right? It's unfortunate. I wish more people out in the world would like speak up when they were unsure about something, but so many people are afraid of looking stupid that they just roll with it. Okay, all right, great. But they hang up the phone with you and they don't feel confident because they're confused about what was said. So we want to make sure that we're educating our customers along the way as part of our messaging, as part of our unique selling proposition, right? And so where can you create a unique selling proposition in your business? Name it, define it, and then look to simplify it, right? Don't make it this long, drawn-out process that's overly complicated to explain. You need to be able to explain it in like 3 bullet points, right? Where could you do it? Well, you could do it in the way that you estimate, right? In other words, what type of estimate you give and what that process is like, from whether you're doing it over the phone, whether you're using, estimating apps, whether you're going out and doing an on-site. You could do it with maybe some concierge services that you offer as well, like things that they need in addition to the move, right, that maybe you offer. You could do it with the way that you explain how you train your movers in advance. All of our movers went through Neighbors University, which was our training program, right? Sounds big, sounds fancy. It was a training program that I put a name on and defined it and simplified what that is, right? That's it. Like, let's not overcomplicate this. We got to look to simplify things for the customers. Right? You could also do your unique selling proposition on the way that you service the job itself, right? What are some of the things you do on the job that will differentiate you? All of our movers, they follow a process that we call the perfect move, which basically, and then you want to demystify all these terms too, right? All of our movers, they follow a process that we call the perfect move. Is basically a fancy way of us saying we give them a checklist to make sure that they do everything that you want them to do and everything we require them to do up to our standards, right? So we're thinking about your conversation with the customer, right? So whereas, other people are dropping terms on them that are confusing them, you're saying, hey, we do this thing that has a name, right? You define it, and then you simplify it in their mind. So it's not this like, you demystify it, all right? Your unique selling proposition. Please don't miss this, okay? Don't miss this. saying to yourself that, hey, we're a moving company, everybody does the same thing. Even if you do the exact same thing, the person that's able to define it, okay, give it a name, define it, simplify it, and explain it in a way where you're educating the customer and not confusing the customer, they win every time. You guys win every time. All right? Some of you do this really well. You know, I've seen it. I've seen it in your marketing. I've seen it in some of your scripts. Some of you do it really well, but I think all of you could step up another level with this, right? So you think about that unique, and you only need maybe, I would say 2 to 3 unique selling propositions, right? You could probably go up to 5. Again, in each step of the process, meaning in your estimating or things you do behind the scenes to train your people, or what you do on the move, or how you handle your equipment or your trucks. Your unique selling proposition will differentiate you and allow you to charge more money for your move, okay? So, how we doing? You guys good? It's too much for January? I know you, I don't mean to derail you if you already had plans, but this is everything, right? This is bringing up your service, and this is also putting you in a position to sell, and it makes it easy, right? Makes it easy. Hey, my friend, before you go, you've got to hurry and watch these next few videos over here. They will absolutely help you take your moving company to the next level. Go watch them now, and I'll see you over there.